So today in After Effects, we're going to look at easing our animations. And so what I've put together here is some words that relate to the different types of animations that you can have, or tweens that get created. And I want to take a look at each of these, but just real quick to play, each of these animations is done over the exact same period of time. So each of them goes for 1 second. So they go from the exact same spot on the left to the exact same place on the right. But as you can tell, as you look at them, they don't go the same way. And I would like to look at these differences because how you animate text or any other object on the screen can be controlled for the effect that you're looking for. So I want to hide each of these layers, and let's just take a look at this first one. So if you are just doing your regular keyframes, I'm going to select this layer that I'm working on, and you can see the tweens, the movement that's going on between this anchor point here, and as it moves, it's going to move across to the other anchor point. So you look at the anchor point of that text in the bottom left-hand corner, and then these dots here represent the tweening, the movement of that that object as it goes across. And as you look at that, you can see that it's evenly spaced. So if I press P on my keyboard, because I'm just looking at position, you can see the diamonds represent my keyframes that I'm creating that you would just create as normal. And so if I animate just as normal, it's going to move evenly. The speed is the same across the entire motion that's there. And that's fine, but it's very mechanical, it's very rigid. It doesn't give the personality that you might want to have for the animation that you have, and it doesn't really look like how things move in the real world. If we take a look at easy out, you can see the difference in my little dots there. You can see at the beginning it's really slow, they're really close together, and then it speeds up as you go across. So if you compare the two, easy out starts really slow. So this is kind of like dropping an object. It has very little speed at the beginning, and then it speeds up more at the end. Comparing that to linear, how that works. And you can see that. Now to create easy out, what I do is on that keyframe there, let's go back and just press P, so we're just looking at position. You can see it looks like a little arrow. I get that by right-clicking on my keyframe and going to Keyframe Assistant and saying Easy Ease Out. So how is it easing out? It's going slowly out of its start. So think about a regular object in gravity that's starting out slow and then it picks up speed. Comparing that to easy in is the exact opposite of that, where easy in is going to start at the regular speed and then slow down at the end. So think about putting on the brakes. You're going to ease into the end of your animation. And again, let's expand that. Hit P there. And you can see that that ease is on the ending keyframe. Again, by right-clicking on it and going to Keyframe Assistant, and now I choose Easy In. So out is going out of your animation or out of your keyframe, and in is easing into your animation. And then finally, we can do that on both ends, and you'll probably see this, the most common use is called Easy Ease. So it's going to start slow, speed up, and then slow down at the end. 3 different effects. And Easy Ease is the same thing, and when you put Easy Ease, you'll see that it simply shows, let's come down to Easy Ease, like an hourglass there. And I can select those, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease is what that is. So let's take a look at this graph editor, and the graph will show you what the easing looks like. So if I go to my graph editor for linear, it's going to look, now I'm going to right-click in here, and I'm going to separate the dimensions so we're only looking at this X position here. Now you're going to see that on my X position, my animation, let's come on here, is, it's straight. It's a straight line, right? Because that's how it's moving. If I look at easy out, let's look here at position. Now I have a curve here. Now the curve, and let me just zoom this in so you can see that more. The curve is very slow at the beginning and then it speeds up. It has a curve at the beginning and an abrupt end here. Coming into here, it has a very abrupt beginning on easy in and a slow end. So you can see how that looks. If I look at easy ease, it's going to look like an S. Slow at the beginning, then speeding up, and then slow at the end. And you can manipulate these points. You can click on these points, okay? And you can even, if you right-click and separate the dimensions, so I'm just looking at the X and the Y. If I look at the X here, I should be able to come into here. Let me come into here. And I can change these properties down here. This is easy ease. And this is here, easy ease. I'm back to where I was. I get these little handlebars in here. And I can actually manipulate these. If you're familiar with like the pen tool in Illustrator, other Adobe products, this is a Bezier curve, okay, that I can change. You can see that my lines are changing up here as I'm moving this. Okay, my lines are changing here. So I can change the speed. So let's see what that did. So now it's faster at the beginning and then it slows even more. So I'm customizing that animation. If I dip this down here, what happens? It just starts super slow and then snaps into place. So if your animation isn't quite moving the way that you want, here's a way that you can manipulate it, is with this graph editor. I click on that graph editor right there. So I'm going to show you how you can manipulate something using the graph editor to do something a little bit more. So I'm going to turn the graph editor off for right now. I'm going to bring up this layer called bounce. I'm going to have this text layer bounce. And just real quickly, I'm going to bring that in here. Let me collapse all the rest of these. And we're just going to look at bounce. And I'm going to change the position. And I just want this to drop down. So I'm going to click on my stopwatch to create a keyframe. And then let's bring this in a few frames here, close to a second. And I'm going to have this drop down. And you can see it's just a linear graph here, right? All right, just that would be my plain linear animation. But now if I turn on my graph editor, there's my linear. You can see it's a line. I want to separate those dimensions, and I get this little curve in here. Now, I can actually add points into here. We can play around with this a little bit. Let me grab my pen tool up at the top, and let me put in some points along this graph. So now, these points can be manipulated. And think about what I want this to do. And let's bring this down here. And let's see what that does. So you normally would think about adding all of these keyframes, and actually if I turn the graph editor off, there are keyframes being added. Okay, but I'm manipulating this the way that I want using this graph editor here. So I'm actually customizing this animation. All right, now I probably actually want this to go the other way, right? I probably want this to be lower here and then come up a little bit here. Maybe not such a steep thing here. But the bottom line is I can create the animation that I want. what's that going to do here? It's going to bounce. Let's see where this is at here. Maybe we come here. So if I want this to bounce in, and you can see how that looks. I'm not saying you want to use this on every single animation, but if you have a special animation that you're trying to work with, this graph editor is an interesting way to manipulate that as you're working on it. So as you're working on your animations, think about how you can incorporate these elements in there. Good luck.